out to CBS Publishing for millions of dollars in 1979. So, why are there any other Captain Marvels in the universe? Well, Captain Marvel was popular. People remembered Captain Marvel as the fan press, and the comic book fandom grew, and they discovered that they could write letters to each other and form fanzines. You would see occasionally, who was Captain Marvel, a little complaint about how Captain Marvel, I wish I could come out there, but I can't because of the courts, etc. And then, and by the way, the reason everybody looks at my Shazam hat, where's my Shazam hat? It's over there somewhere. Oh, there it is. Sir, with the Star Trek shirt, would you be so kind as to pass me? Hello, I know you're paying attention to my legend, that's why I'm looking at that. There you go, busted. Okay, hand me the hat, please. Okay, all right. Who here has ever worn a shirt or a hat or anything with this logo on it and been called the Flash? All right, here's why. Carmine Infantino claims that he was such a big fan of Captain Marvel that when in 1954 he was told, redesign the Flash. He basically used Captain Marvel as an inspiration. I won't go into depth on that. You can look it up in these little books that I've created. This is 2.5 parts of a 3-part miniseries that outlines the story of all the Captain Marvels in greater depth. And eventually I'm going to come up with a much larger production that will cover it all in a lot of depth and go into the sociological significances. Each of them is $5 for one, $5 for the other, $2.50 for the smaller one, $9 you can get the whole set and take them home. But it explains the whole story of why the Flash looks like Captain Marvel there. That was the kickoff of the Silver Age of comics, which led to Justice League of America, which led to Marvel Comics saying, we ought to have a superhero team. Look, hey Stan, give me a superhero team. I really don't want to do comics anymore. His wife Joni said, come on, just do this one. You'll hate yourself if you never do it. Stan Lee wrote Fantastic Four, wrote a plot for Fantastic Four #1. Jack Kirby drew the story, and it was a big hit. The Marvel Age of Comics began. Comics became pop art. And then Batman became a TV show, and It's a Bird, It's a Plane, and Superman became a Broadway show. And who's ever heard of a publisher named Myron Fass? Nope? Okay. Myron Fass is a schlockmeister extraordinaire. If you've ever seen one of those one-shot magazines on the covers like, UFOs, do they exist? In a magazine stand, back when they had magazine stands. Now everything's online. And he was a friend of a guy named Carl Burgos. Who's heard of Carl Burgos? Okay, who knows that there was a Human Torch before the Fantastic Four? There you go. An android, right? In a red suit, right? Carl Burgos was the guy who created that Human Torch. Well, Myron Fass is never one to miss an opportunity to rip off something and make about $1.50 out of it. And the trademark, having not been used since 1953, of the name Captain Marvel was available in 1966. And so, out came Captain Marvel, based on a character created by Carl Burgos. He is an android from another planet in a red suit. Sound familiar? And his power, get this, he would say, split, and his body parts would fly off. And then he would say Zam, spelled X-A-M, and they would come back. So if I wanted to punch you in the nose, I could just go split. My fist would fly off, go boink, and I'd go Zam, and it would come back to my hand. And the story sucked. It bombed. It only lasted 6 issues, but a whole lot of history has to do with who do you believe. And for a long time, the story was that Martin Goodman, the publisher of Marvel Comics, saw this and said, we're Marvel Comics, we should have a Captain Marvel. Stan, give me a Captain Marvel. So he created Mar-Vell, the alien from outer space. However, Roy Thomas tells me that he remembers Stan Lee saying that, hey, a TV production company, an animation company came to Marvel Comics and said, we want a superhero for the space age. We want an alien, and since you're Marvel Comics, we want this alien hero to be named Captain Marvel. And so he created Mar-Vell of the Kree. Again, who do you believe? Is there any paperwork to prove this? I'm working on that. A lot of the story is pick your belief here. Much like living in America, right? Okay. Anyway, so Mar-Vell of the Kree. Now, who's seen the movie? Okay. I'm not going to talk about the movie because the Marvel movie is significantly different enough from the one in the comics that I can tell you all about him and not worry about spoiling the movie for you. Okay, so Marvel of the Kree was, the Kree were an alien race, one of those intergalactic militaristic empires, and they were trying to decide whether they ought to wipe out all humanity on Earth because they're an intergalactic militaristic empire. And so, hovering in geostationary orbit over the United States is a spaceship, and in the spaceship is Captain Mar-Vell and his girlfriend, Medic Una, and his superior officer, Yon-Rogg. And the superior officer, Yon-Rogg, has his eyes on Medic Una, and he hates Mar-Vell, because Mar-Vell has all kinds of people who love him, and he's such a goody-goody, and Una is Mar-Vell's girlfriend. So, he's going to send him down to Earth, to this essentially thankless, hopeless mission where he's probably going to frack it up, and I'll be able to get him in trouble, and then Una will be all mine. Okay, and so Mar-Vell goes down to Earth and happens to, you can look it up, in the course of him being on Earth, a small airplane gets shot out of the sky, and in that airplane is a fella. And so he looks at the fellow's ID. Oh, look, his name is Dr. Walter Lawson. Hey, he works at the Cape, a missile base. As a Kree, Earthling missile science is what we learned in kindergarten. I can probably get away with pretending that I'm a mild-mannered rocket scientist on this missile base. And I'll disguise myself to look like him. Funny thing, he looked like him already. But anyway, he shows up, he gets in, and in the second story, he walks in, and there's Carol Danvers, head of security at the Cape. The Cape was later revealed to be Cape Kennedy, which we now know of as Cape Canaveral, which is in Florida, which is really kind of funny because Gene Colan drew it to look like a western Rocky Mountainous desert, but hey, it's comics. And Carol Danvers doesn't really trust Walter Lawson. And when the monster of the week attacks, and for the first year or so, it seemed that every month some monster or robot or alien or Cold War menace stomps all over the missile base, and Captain Marvel has to save the day. And Yon-Rogg says, why are you saving these humans? Because if we don't save them, we can't study them. You're right. And Una is like crying, oh, Mar-Vell, you're going to die. It's like, and he would fly there and he'd be stomping people, and like, who is that? He said his name was Captain Marvel. Okay, and Carol Danvers is like, Captain Marvel, oh, he rescued me, and I take my heroes very seriously. By the way, where is Walter Lawson? That mysterious guy disappears every time a monster attacks the base. Funny thing that. So we got this whole Clark Kent, Lois Lane, Superman thing going on, but with the addition of the girlfriend on the spaceship. Well, Mar-Vell kind of got played as a sucker, a pawn in Kree politics, with, by the way, or racial politics. I do cover that in Volume 2. All right. But he winds up coming out of it when all the dust settles, smelling like a rose, and the Supreme Intelligence, who is this big green head thing with tentacles coming out that is the embodiment of the consciousnesses of, depending upon which story you read, all the greatest minds or all the minds that ever lived in Kree, says, Mar-Vell, you're okay. So we're gonna punish everybody who was rebelling against us, but we realize you were played for a fool. So, tell you what, we're gonna give you a new costume. You're going to get to keep all these nifty new powers that you were given in the course of all this screw over that you went through, but you can never rise above the rank of captain. And Mar-Vell's original costume was, if you can look on your little hymnal there, you'll see the green and white suit that he wears in his very first appearance. And then you can just look to the next page, and you can see the red and blue suit. That is very much like this lovely Renaissance doublet from Pendragon Costumes that I had custom made for me. Who thinks this is an awesome jacket? Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right. Now, meanwhile, Carol Danvers got kind of screwed over because during the course of that storyline, Marvell wound up being persona non grata. She was told to arrest him. He got away with it, so she lost her job as security head of the Cape. She wrote a book about it and became kind of a celebrity, kind of a feminist celebrity. And then here's what happened in Marvel Comics is that well, first, now we're up to the early 1970s, so let me revisit the original Captain Marvel. Okay, who here's heard of DC Comics? Who here remembers that I was talking about them earlier? Okay, well, everybody and anybody who had anything to do with that lawsuit from the 1940s and 50s was gone or dead or no longer involved with DC Comics. And who here was here for the Jack Kirby panel earlier today? You remember that question I asked? Okay. Mark Evanier, who is the guy who wrote the Brew the Wanderer stories that Sergio Aragonés drew, was a friend of Jack, and he says that Jack Kirby wanted to bring a bunch of heroes to DC Comics, and one of them was going to be the original Captain Marvel. And DC would publish them, he would edit them, and it was going to be great. Carmine Infantino says, I brought him back because I loved him. I just picked up the phone and I called Fawcett one day and I said, what'll it take for us to get Captain Marvel? And Fawcett said, make us an offer? Yeah, frankly, I think they wanted to get rid of him. Well, let's look at this fairly, right? You own a property, you can't make any money off of it. The guys who have prevented you from making money off of it want to give you money for it. What do you say? There you go! Fawcett Publications was no fool. So yes, they licensed the character, and if you notice any of the reprints of Fawcett Publications Captain Marvel in the early DC Comics called Shazam, and I'll get to why in a moment, you'll notice the little copyright notice that says the date of original publication. Copyright 1947 by Fawcett Publications, because Fawcett Publications still existed at the time. So, and it was licensed, it wasn't bought. Now, why this whole title thing? Remember what I was talking about, trademarks, right? Okay, well, when Marvel came out with their Captain Marvel in 1967, Myron Fass, who remembers Myron Fass? He, of course, sued Marvel saying, hey, that's my trademark. Long story short, Marvel paid Myron Fass far fewer $1,000 than Fawcett paid DC to make Myron Fass go away. And now Marvel registered the trademark Captain Marvel. Not a copyright on the original Captain Marvel, a trademark on the name. So they're the only ones who can put a trademark on the cover of a comic, or the box of a toy, or the title of a movie or a TV show. So when DC comes out with the original Captain Marvel, they can't make the title Captain Marvel, so they try to pull a fast one. They figured, here's the title. With one magic word, Shazam! The original Captain Marvel. Got away with it for 11 months. They got 11 issues. They got a cease and desist letter from Marvel saying, yo, dude, that's a trademark. So, they changed the title. With one magic word, Shazam! The world's mightiest mortal. So if you never simply turned the cover and looked, and it said the original Captain Marvel inside the front page. If you never turned on the TV to CBS at just the right time in the morning on Saturday to watch the TV show, the live-action TV show, the highest-rated Saturday morning live-action TV show ever, and they didn't even have all those extra words. It just said the magic word Shazam. But even in the opening of the show, they say, when Billy Batson says I'm paraphrasing, of course. When Billy Batson says the magic word, Shazam, he turns into the mighty Captain Marvel. If you never watch the show, if you never read a comic, you see a title that says Shazam. You're going to think that the guy in the red suit with the lightning bolt, his name's Shazam. All right, so we're going to get back to that, but let me also say for those of us geeks for whom continuity is a thing, DC figured out how this could happen. That is, 1953, Dr. Savannah, his arch villain, who, by the way, was a short, ugly little guy who would have been perfectly played by Armin Shimmerman, not by the tall, charismatic Mark Strong. It had captured them all in a globe of, all the Marvel family and their friends in a globe of suspendium. And they were in suspended animation, orbiting the planet or the sun for 20 years until they got too close to the sun. Blah, blah, blah. And they were reawakened in 1973. And for 2 issues, they played the fish out of water angle, the Captain America angle, the man out of time angle with Billy Batson. Well, I got a new suit, but I really don't get what all this, the music and the dancing, it's not really me, you know? But then they kind of forgot that. They tried to make the stories funny and jokey, but instead it wound up just being dumb. The original stories did have whimsy, they did have humor, but Billy Batson and Captain Marvel were not the jokes. Billy Batson and Captain Marvel were the straight man.